So we haven't talked about Flint, Michigan in a little while. Just so you know, it's been years since Flint, Michigan has had tainted water. The rates of mental health issues when it comes to children being born is still skyrocketing, and it's still way too high. And lots of the people there are still fighting for compensation from the government. Completely failed them. Even now, we knew that the government failed them hardcore, and that Flint, Michigan has been used as a political football to be kicked around, to have politicians say that they pretend like they care about the people in Flint, while doing basically nothing to hold the people who put them in that situation accountable or alleviate their situation. But now we have more evidence to know that how little they actually cared about these people, because there was a potential, massive air quote, potential cover up of the top official state issues phones mysteriously wiped of data in Flint, Michigan water crisis probe. So the second that people started sniffing around to find out what actually happened, oopsie, all of the data is gone. Numerous potential key pieces of evidence on the ongoing Flint water crisis investigation that should have been retained indefinitely were deleted by government actors in the state of Michigan. According to a bombshell Wednesday report, the report says several officials close to then GOP Governor Rick Snyder. Rick Snyder was a Republican governor where under his watch, the problem in Flint, Michigan, the water crisis happened because Republicans do not care about human life a lot of the time. And this is one of those really big situations where did they not give a shit. Had their state issues cellular phones wiped of all text messages during a time period crucial to the criminal investigation. Dr. Eden Wells was a one-time chief medical executive for the Wolverine State. Is Michigan actually called the Wolverine State? That shit's LARPy as fuck. I'm sorry. Like, I know all of the states have some name, like the Lone Star State, the Peepo State. She obtained that job in May 2015, at least 7 months after the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services was aware of the deadly Legionnaires outbreak in Flint, which was ultimately determined to have been caused by an increased lead levels in the city's municipal water supply. What Wells knew, and when she knew it, would have been highly relevant to the since shuttered initial inquiry if investigators had the records that could prove it, of course. But according to the report, those records mysteriously vanished. Wolverine is an animal. I know Wolverine is an animal. I know Kentucky's the bluegrass state. I've been to bluegrass. It's whatever. Grass isn't fucking blue. It's like light green. The reason is it's because Kentucky exports grass to the rest of us. Yeah, did you guys know that grass didn't exist? Actually, in England, that's why England and lots of places in London look so fucking shitty, is because when London was developing, they didn't have grass. They just had no grass there. It's pretty freaking wild, you know? They had to export grass from the Americas. They just had none. No trees, no grass. But when the investigators obtained access to Wells' phone, they discovered something unusual. For Dr. Wells' phone, the earliest messages from November 12, 2015, then Flint Special Prosecutor Todd Flood wrote in the subpoena petition obtained by The Intercept. During the key period that the investigators were probing, no messages were found. In 2018, a federal judge ruled that Wells would stand trial for involuntary manslaughter, along with obstruction of justice over her role in the water crisis. Those charges were dropped by the current Attorney General, Dana Nelson, in 2019. In January 2021, Nelson's Flint water prosecutors recharged Wells with involuntary manslaughter, misconduct in office, and neglect of duty. The report says a similar story more or less repeated itself for numerous top officials for the governor, Snyder's administration. And we're not sure exactly who decided to do this. They may all be working separately to delete messages, but they may be working in tandem to delete messages. Snyder brought everyone into his office after he didn't give a shit about a majority black city getting lead pumped into their water, and tried to cover it up. And then when they found out about it and decided to do nothing about it, they deleted all of their messages, all of them, to try to hide from the fact that they neglected the duty to be public servants and decided to be public enemies to the people who entrusted them with their health and safety. And now people today are growing up with like mental health issues, learning disabilities, because their homes, their water is the most essential thing for life, is pumped full of toxic chemicals that destroy growing minds. It is basically involuntary manslaughter. It is a form of murder to allow this to happen and then cover up all of your wrongdoing and try to moonwalk away from it. And you know what? If Rick Snyder would have been able to continue being governor, maybe they would have been able to just moonwalk away from it. Thankfully, there's a new governor, and she's not as shitty as the last one and is working to help prosecute a little bit. The people of Flint, Michigan have gotten a little bit of recompense. There's a fund where you can apply to get some money from the government for trying to kill you and your family. But it's nowhere near enough. It's nowhere near enough. And I'm not sure if it will ever be enough. People need to pay for what they did to these people. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. And honestly, I don't think anything less than a jail sentence for everybody involved is anything approximating taking responsibility for what you did. Methinks FBI suddenly won't know how to retrieve the deleted messages. No, who knows? They may not be able to. They just found out that these messages were deleted not too long ago, so they may still be looking. I highly doubt that it's that hard to find messages that were sent on government phones, unless the government phones are like so shitty that, which honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, how incompetent some of those people are. Maybe they were just like the tech when it comes to the government. Maybe it was just that bad. They're all still using like Blackberries or something. You know that one phone that you had when the first phone you ever had? I'm not sure if you guys had this, like the little like ladybug phone that has 3 buttons and it's like mom, dad, and the cops, and that's it. Maybe that's what they're like texting each other on. That's what they call each other. You know, they picked them up from Walgreens, and that's what they give every government employee. Who knows? Chief Deputy Director Tip Becker's phone, upon being turned over to the investigators, lacked any text messages prior to April 14th, 2016, 2 months before he would exit that role. Becker first raised questions about the Legionella outbreak in January 2015. Patricia Kane, an epidemiologist for MDHHS, who previously testified that Wells told her to lie about blood lead levels discovered in Flint's children, blood lead levels found in Flint's children, told to lie about. Investigators only found 7 total text messages. Totally not curious. Oh, my government phone that I use for all of my government work that I was in the government for years. Oh, it only has 7 messages. Listen, I love to send messages to in between me and the governor through pigeon. It's just something so homey about it. I like to write all my messages with my typewriter. I barely use this thing, investigators. Sarah Leo Callow, the director of the State Bureau of Epidemiology and Health and Population Health, who Wells communicated with about accusations that the Snyder administration was engaging in a cover-up, had no messages on her phone before 2016. Again, for some strange reason, the earliest text messages in the time on her device begins on June 20th, 2016. Wesley Preem, one-time manager for MDHHS, lead on the Healthy Homes program, who falsely challenged the findings of a pediatrician concerned about Flint's children's high blood lead levels, had only one message on the state-issued phone when it was turned over to the authorities. And the pattern goes on and on and on for top officials in the Snyder administration. All of them, mysteriously, all of their messages, poof, gone. All around the time where they would be frantically sending messages to back and forth, that people are starting to realize that their children are coming up like near brain dead because they've allowed all of those kids to get filled full of lead and did nothing about it and didn't tell anybody about it because they couldn't give a shit less how many people died, as long as they weren't their constituents or something along those lines. Do you have any text messages from 2015 currently on your phone? No, she replied. So I left the governor's office. Everything got wiped. I mean, when I turned over the phone, it got wiped. When I turned in the phone, they just wiped everything. Just a common procedure. They just gone. Doesn't exist anymore. Incredible. The timing of the press aid focused data deletion efforts stand out particularly suspect. Woelfel left careening Snyder's administration after a civil lawsuit was filed against it 1 month before the first criminal investigation was announced. Experts insist the phone wiping practice was highly unusual. Again, the report explains at length. It's not standard for a Michigan Department of Technology, Management and Budget official who worked for the state during the period of time involved in the state data preservation, told The Intercept about Werfel's phone being wiped upon leaving her role in Snyder's press secretary. There are retention schedules that every agency, including the governor's office, are supposed to adhere to. Apparently, they didn't want to adhere to any of that. So that's what's going on right now. A little update on Flint, Michigan. It appears like, I'm just opining at this point, it appears as so maybe the governor's office saw this was looking really bad, that hundreds of kids were being pumped full of lead on their watch, and they decided to do nothing about it because they care more about profits and winning office than the health of children. So much for the party of family, those Republicans are. So because of that, they decided it may be a good idea to wipe everything that they could possibly find about their potential cover-up, because it's a real bad look. And maybe, who knows, maybe they would have been able to win office again. Thankfully, they didn't. And thankfully, people are investigating this. But how many administrations has this gone through now? Three administrations. And it's almost been 1 year since Joe Biden has been in office. And there's still an ongoing investigation. And there are still hundreds of kids with mental health issues because of the lead in their water. And there are still people living in Flint, Michigan, who can't leave their homes because it's illegal to sell your home when there's a public health crisis that the home is sitting on. So they can't escape. They have to buy water. They can't use any water for fear of destroying their bodies with a dangerous level of lead that's still being pumped through all of their system. It's sad. It's disgusting. Well, these people at the top are busy running, scurrying like roaches away from what they did.